Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Trace Elements Radio with Tracey Kennedy, live today on Tuesday, June 14th. And June so far has not disappointed. She has been a month. Well, we said it was coming. You know, we realized this ritual was going to be taking place in front of our eyes. So, let me start with this because I need to take your pulse on it. And there are some things, and I will not berate the issue because you've probably heard a lot about it. Here are some of the things that you may not hear. That it was Latin night at the Pulse. The majority of victims were queer people of color. My cousin wrote this for me and sent it to me, and apparently queer is not a bad word anymore. Because I'm saying I can't say queer. So apparently I can say queer, and gay people are not going to be troubled by the queer word. Okay, so moving on. So there was also a trans headliner, man in a dress. So this will be erased from the stories you hear, I'm sure, if that was mentioned at all, because this story has a specific agenda of Islamophobia and racism towards them. Now, this is a psyop. A psyop are actions designed to influence perception and attitude and perhaps change them from groups of individuals for a very specific targeted outcome. A hoax. Hoax is an entirely different thing. You've probably heard this called a hoax. It is not a hoax. It happened. These people died. But why was it a psyop? Number one, gun control, both sides. People afraid of losing their guns, people who don't want you to keep them. Again, LGBT legislation, nothing scarier than somebody who likes another sex, apparently. This is for both sides of that room. The gay agenda and the gay hating agenda. And again, Islamic terrorism. It's a trifecta of government propaganda. This is part of the alchemical ritual. The sexual magic going on in front of your eyes right now. Don't forget, do not forget that this is the year of light. So we are seeing Cascadia rising, which is going on right now, and Babylon working. Don't worry, I can do both. So I'm going to walk you through some events. Events I'm sure that you've been walked through, but as you know, I have a different way of looking at things. Now, Orlando Pulse shooting. Also, Christina Raimi. All of this is a psyop. And I'm going to say it to you in ways that you see how clever I am. Anyway, Heinrich Müller. He became the chief of the Gestapo, the political secret state police of Nazi Germany. That may sound like it has nothing to do with what's going on, but it absolutely does. Müller was born Munich, Bavaria. First origin of the Illuminati, as we've talked about before. So, Bavarian Illuminati, interestingly enough, again, has one of those Illuminati cards. Their power is 1010. Each turn you may declare one of your tracks privileged. Special goal is a control of power 50 or more, counting Bavaria's own power. Bear with me. So, Robert Mueller III is the 6th director of the FBI. The 6th. He looks as you would expect him to look. His maternal great-grandfather was railroad executive William Truesdale. His ancestry includes Germany, as one would expect. Now, SAC, S-A-C, Paul Weisopal, I think. Weisopal is probably how you say it. SAC, named special agent in charge of the investigation of Orlando Paul's nightclub shooting. Still with me? Okay. So guess who named Paul Weisopal the special agent in charge of Tampa, Florida Division? Who do you think? None other than Robert Mueller himself. Mueller. The shooter that they brought out for you, worked for G4S, the world's largest security company. When I saw that something had happened on Sunday, the first thing I said to the people on my Facebook page is that you will hear that somehow was involved 3 to 5 military-looking men. Well, ta-da! Controversies involving the company. This company specifically we've talked about. It's included allegations of use of immigrant detainee labor in prisons, allegations of misconduct in child custodial institutions, allegations of police telephone data manipulation. Just about all of the bad things that an industry like this could get away with, these people have been accused of. No charges, of course. But G4S Security, their little white letters with a red stripe and a 4, black 4. Security here to assist you in your needs. G4S, sometimes with the G and the S and black letters and the 4. Again, here to secure you. It was the protection squadron for Adolf Hitler, the SS, the Third Reich, the black swastika that you've seen of. Now, German's Fourth Reich was SSSS, or G4S, protection squadron of the new world to come, which is here. G4S, securing your world, also in red and black. Heinrich Himmler, who's come up in a lot of our stories. This is from him. Germans who wish to use firearms should join the SS or the SA. Ordinary citizens don't need guns, as having guns doesn't serve the state. Again, Heinrich Himmler. And the big American fear. Don't take my guns. It's, we have this instead of dicks. Sorry, not that you don't have dicks. It's obvious you have a lot of them. So, Zach, Paul, why so pal? And you're probably saying, Tracy, that's the silliest thing you've ever said. It makes no sense. Really, play with the letters. It could be letters changed, not thrown away, was all a psyop. You see? Can you see me now? Obvious. With the usual characters. And of course, the biggest fear of Americans. Don't take my gun. So before you exit, you better understand what's going on in front of your face. Again, backstage, before you exit, was Christina Grimmie. Grimy? I didn't watch The Voice, so I don't know. But it was a little symbol with a triangle, like a circle, triangle. That's it, before you exit. Before you exit all the lights. It's a pyramid. Again, alleged shooter. Another incident that went on was, to kill her, of course. Libel. The libel name, meaning German. Bavarian. All of these things separately, if nothing else happened, I would leave it alone. But if you keep throwing the esoteric in my face, I must see it. So there is one game. One game only. This is the Babylon working. This is what's going on in front of your face. This is why Trump may get in. Because there are enough very, very frightened people who are buying all of this bullshit. Pastors jumping up and down saying, let's celebrate the nightclub massacre because there's 50 less pedophiles in this world. Somebody actually said that. And again, you can see all of this on my page. Trace Elements Radio. So, the pastors, and there's of course quite a few of them because there's no one more afraid. Brown people? And they're not Christian? Oh my God. Unfortunately, what he doesn't know is that the pedophiles are the ones that are mostly caught, and of course you will never find a rule that has all people in it. Now, problem is, pedophiles that are caught identify as male, straight, heterosexual. You know what they are? They like power and control over the weak. Now, before you listen to all the lies about, there's nothing like this ever happened here before, that this is the deadliest mass terrorist shooting ever in the United States, that's, obviously they're not counting 9/11, but East St. Louis massacre, 1917, between 200 and 700 deaths. They won't give us a number. Arkansas massacre, 1919, 854 deaths. Tulsa Massacre, 1921, between 300 and 3,000 deaths. Rosewood Massacre, 1923, 150 deaths. United States is all about the death. Now look at this death here, but forget what's going on in Paris, where, just last week a Paris plane flying to, where was it going this time? Egypt, was taken down. I've told you before that a lot of what's going on in Paris has to do with United States for many, many reasons. That you are both being attacked at the same time. People are killing police officers, taking families hostage. Oh, of course, Trump had to put in his little big white mouth and talking shit once again. He claimed that the Orlando shooting suspect, foreign-born extremist. You know what? This extremist was seen over and over again in the skate bar. That is not an Islamic man. Obviously, it does happen where you're going to have gay men in that religion too, but not likely shaking it in the club. But, he worked for a security agency that gone all over the world. Oh, actually they were born in the same city, Trump and the shooter. Trump is an idiot. But I'm pretty sure you're going to vote him in now. Because, there's nothing better than fear. So, while this was going on, a couple of people overheard the shooter's phone conversation. The shooter said there were 4 others involved, 3 snipers and a woman. And I have quite a few things for you to listen to about this. What we know for sure was that someone was holding the door. That several people were brought into the hospital and kept separately than the victims. They had police guards. There is a series of shootings that went on the same day. There were other heavily armed white terrorists who targeted pride festivals on Sunday. Quite a few, as a matter of fact, because this was meant to happen. Now, what we need to not forget. Because wouldn't it be weird if the father of the Orlando shooter was actually a CIA asset that met with multiple members of Congress, and Omar was employed by the exact same company, yes, G4S, that has been linked to many mass shootings that I've talked to you about before? Wouldn't that be weird? And yet, it's true. All of this in your face while they are preparing worldwide for Cascadia Rising 2016. FEMA and pastors, FEMA and Walmart, FEMA and executive orders, the UPI, activist post, the White House. I have many links on this, and I've told you over and over again that this is a thing. Again, we thought it was over at June 10th. Obviously, it's not. Canada, United States, UK, the biggest drills are happening right now. right now. Now, yes, 4 days were the biggest one, but it involved the Pacific Northwest region. Preparations for a potential 9.0 earthquake scenario on the Cascadia subduction zone. What's more disturbing about all this? Military, government, even mainstream media are vehemently pushing subliminal messaging when it comes to fault zones, even big earthquakes that are to take place at or around Cascadia, San Andreas, New Madrid, without telling you the real agenda, because they absolutely know something's going on. So is it mere coincidence that that article's entitled The Big One? One actually published in The New Yorker wins a Pulitzer Prize earlier this year, the article talking extensively about Cascadia subduction zone awareness, how to prepare for such an event. What are they preparing for? A lot. FEMA and Walmart are preparing. Rex 84, which we've talked about before, are preparing. Last month in Alberta, Canada of course, people were told to prepare for disaster. Now in Alberta, like much of the north, we're having huge issues going on right now. Huge. It's not an accident these things are going on. Now, they have delivered a certain mindset to our American brothers and sisters, which we need to look at, because too many Americans aren't looking at it, and I realize it's hard to take, and I'm not saying Canada or any place on this planet is okay right now. We are so out of the okay zone. It's way past that. It's way past safe. It's way past thinking that this is a black or white issue, that, the gay men are going to be stocking our bathrooms. That really makes me laugh. So, Orlando. That massacre, because that is a massacre, was one of 43 that happened on Sunday in the United States alone. Get that number in your head. Guns did not do it, as I will be told over and over again. No, idiots with guns did this. Idiots. Now, some, of course, desperate people. Desperate people do shootings. I get that. You're looking for food. People are so on the edge that they are no longer human. You're not doing... Having an assault rifle, you're targeting humans. You're not looking for an elephant to run through your living room. You're targeting humans. Now, before last call Sunday evening, the gunman opened fire in Orlando's Florida Pulse nightclub, killing at least 50, injuring another 53. The incident received significant coverage, rightfully so. But it was not the deadliest mass shooting in American history. What got much less coverage, though, was the 42 other shootings that happened on Sunday, according to news collected by, all over. Vox, which is what I like to look at, and Gun Violence Archive. These shootings resulted in an additional 18 deaths, 41 injuries. At least 5 of those killed were children. These shootings, albeit more granular, paint a tragic picture of just how common violence with guns is in the States. and how it claims thousands of lives annually outside of mass shootings. So, what one day of shootings looks like in the United States. Memphis, 1 dead, 2 injured. Chicago, 7 shootings, 3 dead, 9 injured. Brooklyn, New York, 2 shootings, 1 dead, 2 injured. Albuquerque, New Mexico, 2 shootings, 5 dead, 1 injured. Lancaster, 1 shooting, 2 dead. Little Rock, 1 shooting, 1 dead, 1 injured. New Orleans, 1 shooting, 1 dead. Orlando, Florida, 1 shooting, and you know how many. So yesterday's, but not Sunday's, violence, it included an entire family in New Mexico, a 13-year-old boy in Baltimore, 42 shootings in 1 day, spread out over 16 states from California coast to Maine shoreline. New Mexico, a man shot and killed his wife, 4 children, 14, 11, 7, and 3. They were found dead in their home by a relative. The shooter, who fled the scene, is still at large. 7 separate incidents in Chicago left 3 dead, 9 wounded. One case, 2 men were shot and killed while sitting on their porch. They had just attended a funeral for a friend who was also killed in the shooting. Wrong place, wrong times. These are dark streets. This is different than every other country on the planet. This is different. You know, Australia confiscated 650,000 guns. Murders and suicides actually plummeted. Now you would say, you know, bad guys don't get guns. They'll get them registered. But every day, an average of 112 people are killed or injured in the United States with guns. Now, I realize you want to keep your assault weapons. Awesome. So keep them. Wall up the entire country. Please do not leave and go out, because this is a contagion. It is an infection, and it's affecting the entire planet. We had more legal guns than America. We did in Canada. We didn't actually start killing each other with them until recently. Now, the rollout because of this horrific event. Now, a pro-Netanyahu newspaper used the Orlando massacre to demonize Israel's Arab citizens. And sometimes all it takes is a single visual to drive home the point. For Israel's most read newspaper, visuals have become a way to race bait, incite against, well, Muslims. And it works really, really great for the United States too. Now, especially against Israel's Arab population, who's being slaughtered right now. And Monday morning, of course, pro-Netanyahu Daily in Israel published a photo montage comparing Omar Mateen, American citizen, yes, who murdered 50 people. They keep saying that because they need you to believe it, that he did it all by himself. That I guess his plan, because his car was all full of weapons, was to go back and reload and go back. And he did it all by himself. and nobody in this full place attacked him. Have you ever seen big gay men? Someone would have kicked his ass if he was alone. But they didn't. Again. No. Side-by-side mugshots of the two killers. Editors of the paper decided to print the words, "chilling similarity." So, Israel Hayam is owned by far-right American casino mogul, Republican bankroller Sheldon Adelson. The paper, handed out for free, is created by Adelson as a platform for Netanyahu politics. Circulating Israel's extremely strict campaign finance laws, he finances the paper at a loss, he says. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Again, Hillary had an equally obscene response to these shootings. Her statement on this mass murder is mostly a confection of empty saccharine pieties for which the entire American political class is known. But it concluded with a more revealing statement. She said, "This is the deadliest mass shooting in the history of the United States. It reminds us more that the weapons of war have no place on our streets. But those weapons of war have been used on the streets of Iraq, nightmare raids on civilian population in war, where Hillary has so ardently backed." Does she even grasp what she's saying? Do others grasp? She's saying that it's an atrocity to use weapons on Americans, but not on the brown people who were actually killed this time. Civilians in their homes, not in Iraq, and throughout the greater Middle East and North Africa. In the U.S. wars of aggression and occupation, United States is rolling out a death friggin' machine right now. Now, obviously not everyone is like that. Just like not every Canadian is supporting what we're doing to Native people all over the world. We're not. I'm certainly not. But again, no hard questions were asked this time. And as with most mass shooting cases in the United States, which is a daily freaking event now, initial news reports, sensational, uninformative, focusing mainly on the number of dead and the wounded. Emphasis on criminals' use of unattractive firearms. That's usually, it's mentioned, But usually they're obtained legally. So after a time, embarrassing facts start to trickle out, usually tied to prior official knowledge of the shooter's dubious background, along with statements from longtime friends and relatives and acquaintances. Knowing the person was always known to be mentally unbalanced. So the killings followed this pattern, but with a little difference this time, because the actor's father, Sadiq Mateen, praised the Taliban, saying, "Our brothers in Waziristan." Really? So Omar Mateen, the shooter, had earlier been under investigation by the FBI for ties to an American suicide bomber in Syria. Omar armed security guard at, again, G4S, founded in Denmark at the beginning of the last century. Major company supplying guard services, risk counseling, investigations worldwide. It bought Wackenhut Corp, similar purveyor of investigations and security services. In 2010, G4S, unsurprisingly, has offices in Crystal City, Arlington, a Washington, D.C. suburb known for its ties to U.S. Armed Forces and intelligence agencies. Well-known guy, well-trained, not alone. Now, before the Orlando nightclub shooting, I guess. But let's go back, because FBI introduced Florida shooters to informants. So our thoughts are, I'm sure most of us are with the families of the victims, because these are mostly young people. But it's confirmed that in addition to 2 investigations and 2 interviews, this suspect, Omar Mateen, was also approached by informants working for the U.S. FBI for a period of 10 months. New York Daily News in the article, FBI spied on Orlando gay club terrorists for 10 months in 2013. So, Mateen just appeared on the authorities' radar in 2013 after the security guard colleagues alerted the FBI to inflammatory statements he made to colleagues claiming family connections to Al-Qaeda. So there's a lot you can look up about this guy. I put a lot on him and the links. But the more I look at things, guys, I realize there is a web here. Because I'm really starting to feel that the connections going on right now, meaning, sentience, resonance, that this is part, at least, of the heart of something, everything that we've been exploring. I haven't called it this so much, but it's the Lucifer rising thing. Cascadia rising. It's a friggin' dance of the apocalypse to open a damn tunnel. Not necessary. But they are planning for something. I know a lot of people are afraid that something will be declared. I know most people are afraid of their little guns being taken away, but I don't know. I'm not. No, I'm not American. At this point, I'm just sitting back and going, they could freaking bring the apocalypse already. I've just had enough of this bullshit. I really have. I really have. The violence, which is constant. And there's nowhere we can go to run away from it. I had a friend on one of my Facebook pages that said, I'm just going to go back to the reserve. She's going to go back to the reserve to be safe, because I guess we're going to just ignore the drug trafficking, the sex trafficking, the violence, the desperation, the suicide. Yeah, let's go. Let's go to the reserve. They wouldn't want my ass there, so it doesn't matter. But I've been saying it for years. Since long before I started blogging, that all the things going on is basically a ritual, a drama, based on ancient mysteries and the religion that arose in the Greco-Roman world during a time when people had actually lost faith in gods that you needed to listen to somebody else for. But something changed. It's still being presented like that. It's aesthetic experience over dogma. And mysteries are now widely believed to be based on the ingestion powerful hallucinogens, particularly potions made of ergot and magic mushrooms. But we are being inundated by sounds and frequencies and lights, and it's why it's so dark outside all the time. And for years, though, I've been pointing out that many storylines that deal with hallucinogens, explicitly, symbolically, rigorously, detailing endless parallels between storylines and mythology and ancient mysteries. So, again, everything is connected. And modern scholars like Gordon Wasson and Terence McKenna, who everyone loves, have shown that the mystery behind the mysteries was use of powerful hallucinogens, LSD, Amanita muscaria. That these led to rituals including wild dancing, to group sex, because we are seeing sex magic as well being pushed just as heavily right now. Turn on YouTube. I do my exercises in the morning, and I have to thank you guys all for all your help that you've been giving me. I've spent every single penny, and you guys are supporting me right now. I'm looking into things that might help me. If I went out of the country to try the stem cell treatment, I would be completely cut off of disability, whether it worked or not. So I can't do that. I can't. To get into the study here, I'm too old. By 1 year. That's something. So I have to wait till they're done. The oxygen therapy I was going to take, that price went up. So I'm taking peptides that I told you guys about, hoping it helps. I don't know. At this point, I'm not. I'm hanging in there. That's all I can say. I'm hanging in there. That's it. But most of us are, so, I'm trying not to whine about it. There is so much going on right now. As I watch just the basic things, ridiculous amounts of information. Not only does it look like we've lost half the species on this planet in under 40 years. And Cascadia may actually be a real issue, it looks like. And it would be much easier to say this was HARP, even though HARP is not on in the summer. They don't ever turn any of the machines on in the summer because of certain atmospheric anomalies that happen every year. It's not on right now. Won't be on until September. But we know that there has been cloud dusting, and of course, because they've screwed up this planet to such an extent that they're spraying stuff, I think, trying to stop it, but they can't. They're not that powerful, and I think we've been giving them way too much credit. But is it making people crazy? Absolutely. I saw this article today. This woman has fallen in love with a tree. Yeah, I like trees too, but I mean sick, twisted love. Like she's going out there naked, rubbing up against it. And she says she's faithful to the trees, even though she looks at other trees. You see, this is why they have Mr. Medication and Mr. Rubber Jacket, and where are the rubber rooms? Because if anyone needs to go into the rubber room, which I'm assuming they still have, girlfriend needs to be in the rubber room, not outside naked, rubbing up against a tree, and then apparently, oh, his name's Tim. She wants to marry Tim. Tim is a tree, just rubbing up against it. This needs to be medicated. Friggin' medicate this shit into her. Oh my God. And then, I guess because if you watch one ridiculously twisted sexual thing, that you get other ideas. So then I saw this guy who wants to be a puppy. So he dresses in a dog suit, wears a collar, and his wife pretends he's a puppy, but he feels like he's a puppy too. And they're married. And he wears the outfit all the time. That was a new one. Thought I had seen it all. No, I obviously hadn't been close to seeing it all yet. And then grown men who want to dress like 5-year-old girls and wear nappies. They want to be babied and apparently breastfed. I understand there's some kink going on. I've done kinky things, I am not afraid to admit. But, then I get this article, and this is apparently a true thing, that this pig has a relationship, like a pig, like piggy, has a relationship. I'm calling it a relationship. I don't know the intimacies of what this would be. With a okay, one with a goat. And apparently pigs and goats can have babies. I'm sure it's rare, but they can have babies. And what are those hoppy things from Australia? What are those things called? Kangaroo. Thank you very much. They have sex. I don't know if they have babies, but they are. You know what? We've been talking about the strange uptick in chimera. Well, I'm looking towards more of a Babylon rising. That weird sexual things are coming up. Like in the days of Noah, I guess. And it's not even so much that it's not that I believe the events in the Bible are true, but someone is pushing an agenda that we have to at least take a look at, because what the hell, guys? How did we get so crazy so quickly? I mean, there is a whole new level of insanity where people are telling me they haven't noticed the huge jump in crime in the United States. I mean, weird violence. Because it's happening here. I would rarely hear of a shooting or a stabbing. And now you're hearing them every day. Well, not quite every day, but still way too much that people are losing their entire minds. So, as I've always looked, things are delving into some twisted shit going on this planet. Things that look like they're completely unconnected stories. And why I bring up the hallucinogens or hallucinations is because worldwide, now it's even confirmed, suicides are jumping everywhere. Violent crime is rising everywhere. And it's sudden. June, and we're only at 14, guys. Every single day there's been something crazy. We've lost more stars. Like stars are falling out of the sky in front of us. And I'm never quite sure how seriously people take me. And I understand that, because maybe they think I'm just projecting all over the material I read that so many people on the internet do, and I get that. I try not to make such statements in public unless I'm confident in my research. After all, there's many open resources, and I'm sure you've heard many stories stating the obvious, which is why I don't want to go into it too much. But looking at the rituals going on right now, because I've called this out a long time ago in a really explicit manner, that we are seeing the descent, and it's an important theme to what we are viewing right now on planet Earth. I realize that we're all connected. We're all probably talking about the same things. Filaments of meaning, sentience, resonance. But I think it's at the heart of everything we've been exploring. If patriarchal slave systems make demons, demonesses, devils from wild nature, then wild nature will force humanity to gaze upon these feral forms. And I really don't think you can outwit love. And love is the law, the only one. I don't mean in some simple Crowley sense, nor do I mean it as a simple romanticism or new age fluffy-duffy, soft-focused spirituality. I mean a kind of cosmic love. Hang with me. We'll be right back. Oops, welcome back everyone. I forgot to turn my mic off. Sorry. Yeah, I'm dragging my ass. Okay, so welcome back. Thanks everyone again for all your support. What am I knocking around here? I'm knocking everything around. Okay. The globalist agenda goes from a gallop to a stampede in June. I think we should know that the world is being unrolled over our heads right now, and was previewed in many ways via contactees, abductees in previous decades. Yeah, I'm going there. Where's Wiz? Is he in the room? Okay, pulling out the aliens. We've got a lot to talk about. So I've long suspected that contactees were disinfo, were specific operation. The effect they seem to have a little too closely to the desired outcome of CIA Robertson's panel, kind of UFO casebook stuff, and the UFO phenomenon be demystified and made an art of ridicule. Seeing a hamburger salesman and a retired mechanics trotted out before the media with their tales of glammed up Venusians filled the bill of what people wanted to hear. We're still seeing this, and there is a darker undercurrent here that I am just going to pull out right now. It's with a lot of the contactee message. I'm not saying that we are not being visited. I absolutely think we are, and I think that there's always been other things here. Always. Look at our eyes, guys. If our vision was like a piano, how many keys are on a grand piano? All we can see is like C. So keep pressing C and then look at all the keys in the piano. We're not seeing all that rest of the stuff. And that's science. That's not mysticism here. We're not talking esoteric. I'm talking about what our eyes can see and what is actually there. So, is there other stuff there? Yeah. What are your cats doing when they stop and look at the wall? And how do we make them not do that in front of me? Because it freaks me to freak out. Anyway, most of the stuff that we still hear, they are pitching some kind of cosmic rulership, authoritativeness. You know what I mean? It's like the same globalist stuff that's going on with their delusional accounts of flying saucer joyrides, and this impulse would have a major impact on the New Age movement. So the best known, one of them anyway, George Adamski, preached the message of cosmic communion. It was considered to be outrageous, subversive, and he's alleged to have said that the alien form of government was very different from democracy and was probably closer to communism. Adamski also predicted that a Russian would dominate the world, which would usher in 1,000 years of peace on Earth. A lot of the stuff we're talking about now that's being thrown in our eyes is stuff that's been said by Blavatsky and her crew. Somebody brought up that when they heard a replay of the archives when I first brought up the Mandela effect, and now it's in everyone's idea, showed me somebody else who was talking about it 40 years ago. And I bet you we can keep going back. That we are being told things. We are being reminded of things. That these things aren't new. They just want our minds in a certain way. So again, PSYOP. Not hoax. PSYOP. Totally different. So, if Adamski was a subversive, how would he be able to wrangle a private audience with the Pope that he actually had, who apparently gave him a special medallion? And if you guys have questions with any of this, just send me a little note, Trace Elements Radio, and I'll go into more of this kind of stuff. I write it down. I was spending so much time making articles for you guys that, I didn't have links of what I was going to talk about today, because I thought it was going to be another one of those shows where I just swear for 2 hours and cuss everyone out, but that's not nice. So anyway, why was he a big deal? And again, if you get a chance to look at some of the things I've put up, you will see that a whole bunch of people have met with the Pope. Not this Pope, other popes, but this Pope too. So anyway, co-writers. Desmond Leslie apparently had somewhat of an occult pedigree too, because we saw how Leslie cited avowed globalist Alice Bailey in an introduction to he and Adamski's group, his book. Alice Bailey, again, next in line with Blavatsky. When these people start linking up, I immediately say, oh good, it's the agenda. The new kind of occult Barbie. Spiritualism Barbie. You know what I mean? So, Sir Shane Leslie apparently had more exotic interests still. Now, Sir Shane's closest friends at the time included acclaimed paranormal novelist M.R. James, the eccentric Lord Chimidar, who dabbled in black arts under the influence of Crowley's teachings at his country estate in Wales. Leslie would come to associate with another of George, or the George, contactees. In this case, George King, British-based head of the UFO cult. I think it's Aetherius Society. Now, like many UFO cultists, King would simply polish up the old philosophy hoodoo with the space age scene of saucers. So this is why I'm bringing it up, guys. It sounds unrelated, but the rollout here is ridiculous. And we need to stay in touch. It's going to be a big series. So, much like Adamski in ways Leslie would later introduce the two men, also prophesied troubling scenarios, an end-time event in which an unnamed figure, a globe master, a ruler of the world, is to come, a stranger who will be more powerful than all the armies on all the earth. This is the year of the light. That I said last year that we would not be seeing the 4th of July in 2016. When we talked about the events last year, around this time, that were being set up for the Pope's visit, when the Pope said, get ready for the Lord of the world to emerge. We haven't seen the movie yet, but we are definitely watching the prequels. We're not even seeing the trailers. We're watching the prequel. Maybe a little bit of the trailers too. But this isn't the event. It's coming. Now, according to King, this globe master will remove all of those from Earth who do not respect his word. Sound familiar? That he will openly approach world leaders. That he will make his origin known to them. But they will not believe him. However, he will have great powers, which by karmic law will be allowed to use in order to demonstrate to all men, beyond a doubt, the authority empowered to him to carry out his great mission on the earth. The power of this being will be greater than mankind has ever seen in any single humanoid frame, so vast that it will be almost terrible. And this is similar to Manly P. Hall's prophecy from decades earlier, that on the great day to come, humanity will become one, and the Lord of the world will openly reign. Until then, those who know the purpose of the universal plan must dwell apart from the rest, as keepers of the secret document. That's from Manly P. Hall, the Phoenix. I should probably put this down. I'll put this down. I've got thousands of windows open. Something else I was doing. Anywho, so many occult and esoteric groups and figures have embraced globalism for centuries. We have been led astray if we think these groups aren't the same group. They have been given a bill of goods to show us. And most people don't know what they're doing. They don't know who they're working for. They don't know why even they're seeing these things. With all the global dimming and all the Wi-Fi and all the constant cell towers. The cell towers are enough to broadcast into your brain what they want you to see and think and feel and hear. So for centuries, in fact, they have made the technology more and more exact. And again, this is not fantasy here. This is not esoterica here. This is exactly what they can do to us. Kind of interesting I wrote about brain bugs too, that they actually can control you. On the page. Check out the articles. So, they may not be openly advocating for totalitarianism, like fascism or socialism, but the alien groups are kind of pushing towards that way. Follow my leader, my exalted form. Not mine personally. It's not so exalted right now, but, they're always about, if you just follow me or my guy, So I don't need to remind you the effect that this would have on conspiracy-minded, particularly religious variety thereof. But many more secular-minded observers have also looked upon all of this alien apocrypha with a bit of a jaundiced eye. Many make observations such as a great many of the contactees purvey philosophies which are tinged, if not tainted, with overtones of totalitarianism. Now, the UFO literature from the 50s to the 80s, in particular, is rife with this kind of globalist propaganda, often accompanied by warnings of nuclear Armageddon, environmental catastrophe, if humans don't obey their space brothers' command. It's funny because I read another one of those space brothers' commands on Facebook today, because that's not going to go over well with me. Tell me what to do. But anyway, the scare tactic, the scare tactic, grew particularly intense with the rise of the abductees in the 60s. The space beings appear definitely concerned with seeing all that mankind is united as one on this planet. Contactees have been told that the space beings hope to guide Earth to a period of great unification, when all races will shun discriminatory separations, and all of humankind will recognize its responsibility to other life forms existing on the planet. Space beings also seek to bring about a single solidified government. They had me all the way up until government. I was good up until then. Now, Jacques Levy wrote at least some of the troubling aspects of this UFO cultism in Messengers of Deception from 1979, including fantastic economic theories, including the belief that a world economy could be created overnight and that democracy should be abolished in favor of something utopian, a utopian system, usually dictatorial in their outlook. Now, utopia always sounds great, but utopia is more like Brave New World, where everyone has their job and their pill, and some of them get less oxygen at Earth so that they will be happy with their enslavement. Kind of like that. So, of course, UFO cultists are not alone in this. Many more powerful and influential individuals and groups, some of the most powerful in the world, in fact, share these beliefs. And I'm sorry, you guys know I've been following Cash. I've been keeping open mind, but not so open that my brains fall out my ear. Not liking where it's going. Not liking it. And I'm not saying his stuff doesn't work. You can build it. You can see what it does. But look at who's sponsoring this guy. You get a private room in Dubai. The Vatican invites you to speak. I'm sorry. No, I'm pushing back. Don't like it. Tech, sure, it works. But it's elitist. And I think we've had enough of that, haven't we? Now anyway, the difference, though, what's going on here is that some are having the power to turn their beliefs into reality, and are doing so as we speak. So this is where I should remind everyone how strangely activist Hillary Clinton, whose husband arguably did more to advance the cause of globalism and Silicon Valley than any other single person, has been on the UFO issue during this election too, seemingly oblivious to the almost universal scorn this position has earned her. I should also remind everyone here that the world's wealthiest corporation is building their new headquarters in the shape of a friggin' flying saucer. Oh yeah, I kid you not. Astronaut theology then? Basically, unidentified flying architecture. Now, some of you are pretty familiar with the various Wat Pira Buddhist temple. You know, the one in Thailand. I'll put the name in the chat room, because I'm sure I butchered the friggin' how you say it. Here we go. It became unique for its design. And it's stunning to see tens of thousands of worshippers praying around what most people would immediately recognize as a friggin' flying saucer. Tell me that is not a flying saucer, guys. But it's a part of a global trend right now. In architectural design, a trend that includes some of the most significant organizations in the world. There is an agenda. So the flying saucer design of the temple might normally be a curiosity, but it's one of the largest active temples in Asia. Its numbers are freaking staggering. The community living at Wat Pra, and I'm not even going to say the last, it's Dharmakaya, maybe that's it, now numbers 3,000 monks, novices, laywomen, making it the largest temple in Thailand in terms of inhabitants. Congregations on Sundays, major religious festivals reach 100,000, which since 1985 exceeded temple capacity, influenced the temple's design to expand the site to one of 1,000 acres, with the building of the World Dharmakaya Center. So don't think it's just one group in there. It's a freaking right in your face Buddhism. Worship the temple. Temple just happens to be a flying saucer. So there's also this area in Shanghai, China, which Mercedes-Benz, by the way, one of the largest automobile manufacturers in the world, currently has the naming rights to. You might think it doesn't look like a UFO in the daytime, but perhaps we should look at it at night, and I will put up pictures, because it's better. What this, is being built for, I don't know. But it's the Chinese version of a World Fair, I guess. So Expo 2010, officially Expo 2010, Shanghai, China, held on the banks of Shanghai, China, obviously, from May 1st to the 31st, 2010. Major World Expo, friggin' flying saucer. One of the largest countries participating. Again, superlatives like largest keep popping up. And stunning coincidence, Mercedes-Benz also sponsors one of the flying saucer megaplexes. So New Orleans Superdome is it's New Orleans Superdome. It's a friggin' flying saucer. Olympic Games, covertly, flying saucer. And I suppose the UFO megaplex in Astona, Kyrgyzstan, shouldn't surprise anyone, but it's a flying saucer. And then we go to the Superdome. This was actually one of the world's first and largest operational space facilities. It looks like they're building an alien embassy. Busy spaceport, I don't know. It's under Russian space program, but it's a flying saucer. And speaking of international games, Brazil refurbished a curious building next to a stadium used for 2014 World Cup, and it kind of gives the impression of Jesus greeting a flying saucer, because he's standing. And then how about that for symbolism? Also, there's Rio Contemporary Art Museum that looks like a craft from the one that Betty and Barney Hill case they talked about. It kind of looks like an upside down flying saucer. And speaking of the arts, Century 2 Concert Hall. This is Wichita, Kansas. Interesting design. Friggin' flying saucer. And then Basilica of the Virgin of Guadalupe. Flying saucer. So again, there's an agenda. Again, the world famous Space Needle. City of Seattle. Modeled over a flying saucer. On a flying saucer built at a time when Seattle was one of the most important centers for aerospace industry. Friggin' flying saucer. And today, Seattle is the leader in information technology, but soon might be on the cutting edge of aerospace again. Elon Musk builds the base Mars mission division, SpaceX, in Seattle. So again, I'm just telling you, somebody's got flying saucers on their minds. So, should remind everyone, again, the world's wealthiest corporations are building everything in the flying saucer shape. So why? What's the point? And I took another look at 2001, The Space Odyssey, and uncanny parallels. It has 2 bullet points of post-war ufology. So Arthur C. Clarke was almost certainly the conduit for tales. He may have been the guy. Being told out of school. Given his extensive governmental, scientific, military connections, which are vast, this was just not some random guy, well connected, agenda-wise. Now that probably also explains the uncomfortably futuristic technology showcased in a film, gadgets being developed, secret space labs, given a sneak peek preview for the tripping Aquarians who made the 2001 a smash. Let me remind you that the men called them overlords. They had come from outer space, they had brought peace, prosperity to the earth, and then the change began. It appeared first in the children, frightening, incomprehensible. Now the overlords made their announcement that this was the first step in the elimination of the human race and the beginning of, in a novel alive with ideas, Arthur C. Clarke offers a startling hypothesis about the next evolution of man. So what about Clarke's other tour de force? Was it to a work of prophecy? A showcase for predictive programming? Or was Clarke thinking of that quote by Manly P. Hall when he began writing of demonic aliens installing a totalitarian superstate in Childhood's End that they just showed on TV again? Or was it he tapped into the stream of information, another one entirely? What is the deeper link between the seemingly strange strands? And why would all of this have such a hold on a man like Clarke? Because it's interesting to see the just completed UN building on the back cover of Clarke's book. Since the UN was a force of anti-war New World Order theory for so long, much less so now, its various affiliate programs allowed all manners of groups, no matter how obscure, to associate themselves with increasingly marginal body. The Lucis Trust took advantage of the affiliate program, which, along with the former Assistant Secretary General Robert Mueller, oh yeah, I gave this some thought, what I was going to say to you today. His association with the trust, yes, provided a lot of gist for the mill for conspiracy theorists, such as myself. Another longtime hobby horse is apparently a quote about Lucifer and the New World Order by New Age guru David Spangler, who was associated with the short-lived but influential and alarmingly star-studded globalist think tank, Planetary Citizen. that also took advantage of the affiliate program. A quote is garbling of this actual quote, which for many is probably just as bad. Lucifer comes to give us the final gift of wholeness. Wholeness. If we accept it, then he is free and we are free. That is the Luciferic initiation. It is that many people know, and in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an initiation into the new age. What should be or should not be a surprise is that Spangler too aims to be a contactee, though not of the Venusian variety. Venus is important when we will continue on with this, because it is not unusual for me to have communication with non-physical, invisible beings. Indeed, it happens almost every day, and forms an important part of my work as I teach my online classes in collaboration with colleagues who dwell in the spiritual world. Don't worry, I didn't write this. But perhaps he's just more lucid. I don't know. So here we are at the crossroads. So when talking about demons and science, it should be noted that Clarke began work on the novel that later became Childhood's End in July of 1946. The date is important. Just the same month that bombers from Roswell Air Force Field, led by General Ram E., took in Operation Crossroads, which many ufologists have cited, along with White Sands and Hiroshima, as a beacon that called our Saucerian neighbors to our neck of the woods. So this story is just chock full of coincidence, isn't it? Everything I've told you about what's happened in the last couple of days, just chock full of. But perhaps the crossroads motif, as old as Hecate herself, tells us how those seeking to summon these beings truly understand their nature. Indeed, we read quotes from very high-ranking military figures who may have in fact been briefed on Crossroads at the time, giving us some very clear picture of how they perceived this phenomenon, what is coming, because it's coming soon. I may not have a chance to talk about it today, but I'm showing the alignment to the red star and the seven sisters and the black hole and the white hole that's coming August. It's a big deal. Anyway, and more information about it, I'll read it, but you might want to see, because there's pictures and stuff. Anyway, how we saw Admiral Knowles eschewed the nuts and bolts of the phenomenon in favor of the far fringes. This was a man with serious combat experience, an instructor at Annapolis, not the kind of dewy-eyed New Ager you'd normally associate with such beliefs. But he did, like Sir Goddard and Sir Horsley, have a vantage point that allowed them to frame all of this into a different manner than the board at NICAP. More importantly, Was Clark doing the same in Childhood's End? Did he realize the truth of this phenomenon, its nature, its actual origin? And did he, in fact, understand where it was all eventually leading? Note that the book was published just before the age of the contactees, yet seems to anticipate their utopian prophesizing. It should be noted that Clark wandered far afield from scientific reductionism, dipping his toes into some pretty strange waters. What did he know that his peers did not? Look up Arthur C. Clarke's World of Strange Powers. So, does the recent adaptation of Childhood's End on sci-fi presage for our own times? No one can deny that the agenda is frickin' quickening, that the brakes seem to have come right off. Is there greater importance to the ministries and the mini-series that we understand at the moment? Full out demonology, because many ufologists would come to see flying enigmas filled with beings not unlike Clark's overlords, who are simply a literalization of the demonic, or daemonic, if you prefer, archetype that would later come to dominate many of the corners of ufology, and there seems to be no evidence yet that any of these craft or beings originate from outer space. UFO behavior is more akin to magic than to physics as we know it. The modern ufonauts and the demons of past days are practically identical. Studies of flying saucer cults repeatedly show that they are part of a larger occult social world. The symbolic display seen by abductees is identical to the type of initiation ritual or astral voyage that is embedded in traditions of every single culture everywhere in the world. The structure of abduction stories is identical to that of occult initiation rituals. The UFO beings today belong to the same class of manifestation as entities that were described in centuries past. They are no different, and maybe Clark was ahead of the curve. Which leads me to question why and how. Maybe he was clued into information and intelligence that others just were not and would never be. Perhaps he spoke to Air Marshal Goddard. He had connections, certainly. Perhaps Sir Vic told him something like the astral world of illusion, which on physical evidence is greatly inhabited by illusion-prone spirits, is known for its multifarious imaginative activities, exhortations. Seemingly, some of its denizens are eager to exemplify principalities and powers that we have been warned about. Others promote upon morality, spirituality, deity, internal goddesses or gods, your own special powers, like the show Powers. All of these astral exponents who involve or invoke human consciousness may be sincere, but many of these seem to be afraid to propagate special fanaticism, perhaps of an earlier incarnation, and to indulge in continuing technological urge towards materialistic process, simply to astonish and disturb the gullible, the devil of it. I don't know, guys. But I am seeing too many similarities here. There is a nature to the technological explosion that we saw in the 40s, and it is Luciferian. Luciferic in the Promethean sense, in that it has power taken from authority and given to the rest of us. Or is it in fact satanic? Not the same thing. In that it is a hierarchical force that only increases authoritative power. The answer to this question seems to be face-punchingly obvious. In the age of drones and surveillance and pre-crime, but the story is being told. We don't know what kind of counter-technologies hackers are going to develop or discover. A process that will probably be the byproduct of a state-sponsored cyber warfare. I get that. They can literally change everything now in the way equal access to automatic weapons. How that ended colonialism. They could herald Lucifer again, in the Promethean sense, in and of themselves. The question is also important because of the two fingers we can point to in mythology as being distinctly Luciferian: Prometheus and Samyaza. They themselves prototypical hackers, using heaven's own technology against it. So, the Luciferian archetype seems inseparable from technology as we know it. Now, you need to deal with several things. The power of an archetype, how it drives me to understand nature, to observe movement as it reemerges in this chaotic, fractured time where everybody seems to hate each other or have just given up. Try to define what has been not only misperceived, but is in fact completely misunderstood by nearly everyone, particularly the neo-Satanists who think they know what they're worshipping, because they don't. Prometheus and Samyaza. After giving a great deal of thought, I've come to the conclusion that Lucifer is not a historical figure or myth, that Lucifer is a reality yet to come. What little we know is a foreshadowing. So we've seen the trailers, but haven't seen the film yet. Here are a few things that you need to know. That Lucifer is not Satan, nor is he satanic. It's an entirely different frequency. In fact, you're looking at diametrically opposed paradigm. Luciferian prototypes practicing self-sacrifice or enlightened self-interest, and Satanists like LaVey et al. Preaching radical selfishness, or at least some kind of self-glorification, Nietzschean kind of TV show. And the YouTube helps perpetuate Lucifer Satan confusion, but has no basis in any serious theological sense. We're talking about a TV show too, based on a comic book, Lucifer, after all. But even the TV show has Lucifer quitting the role imposed on him, kingship of hell, and pursuing his own, often absurdly altruistic agenda. Lucifer is not a ruler. He seems more interested in upsetting established structures, in anarchy. We get this sense quite clearly from the mythological kind of precedent. Satan is interested in ruling. That much is pretty freaking clear scripturally, all the books, and in literature, and in Satanism itself. He can do the job all by himself, wants to be all by himself. Satanic groups themselves have always separated the two figures, with Lucifer being a subordinate kind of figure, and often a dandy. LaVey was a bit of a homophobe, hence the dandiest kind of stuff. So, as we've seen, the word Lucifer had a number of meanings in the ancient world. Early translations of the Bible even refer to Jesus Christ as Lucifer. Yes, it does. And again, the title, a title, and not necessarily a person or a name. Also, there are no elite Luciferians, because there's no Luciferianism for them to follow, or at least anything existing outside the imaginations of certain utards or YouTubers. I thought utard was cute. Utardians. Okay. So, there's no such thing. There's no legitimate Luciferian text, no Luciferian rites, no shrines, nada, unless you count the Yazidi. And that's an entirely separate and very interesting conversation. So if you want to talk about the Yazidi, send me a thing and we'll talk about the Yazidi. Now, Lucifer, Satan, the devil, three separate entities in the medieval grimoires with three separate domains, functions, forms of spellcraft. My own imagination seemed to bear this out. And while I was working on these things for at least 10 years now, it's hard to explain. But I've seemed to notice that Lucifer is often confused with Satan, or even distinct figures like Crowley's crowned and conquered and conquering child, and that seem not to muddy the waters, but create some kind of spiritual blowback, like two powerful chemicals being mixed, creating a toxic gas. And that's one way of putting it. The other is that I couldn't shake the feeling that Lucifer was offended by this mix and matching, particularly in figures associated with essential evil and spiritual darkness. Lucifer, spiritual or low-life spiritual scum, in other words. Lucifer is no choir boy, The archetype seems to resonate more with the Gnostic concept of Abraxas, a figure that transcends dualities. You don't get the sense that Lucifer is about turning the other cheek or loving one's enemy or that sort of thing. He is not to be taken lightly. That I can't say with a certain certainty, but to keep a safe distance. So we will continue on with this and see what we can do about taking this shit apart, because this shit is definitely coming down. Okay.
Knocked on my back door.